Streets, Collingwood.
It's Monday night, it's The Peel. I'm Ralph McLean. You're watching Blah 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 on Bent TV, Melbourne's gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender television group. Bent TV proudly brings you this show with the support of The Peel. We're not drinking now, but we might have a drink later on. Tonight we're going a little bit out of key and a little bit out of real world politics issues in the gay, lesbian, bisexual and transgender community, and we're going into cyberspace and our sibling, sister, brother program, Squeal. Tonight we've got 5 guests and a regular. I've got our regular Drew. You're not being street trash this week, are you, Drew?
I feel a bit trashy tonight.
You feel a bit trashy, but only a bit. After last night.
I'm off the wagon.
Off the wagon, okay. On my right, we've got James Scurry from RMI TV. James is... what are you, James? Production manager with RMI TV. And we've also got Dave Trueman. Dave is coordinator, instigator of Q Melbourne. Moderator, okay. We may or may not have moderation here tonight on Blah Blah Blah. We have not just one, not just two, but 3 glittering stars from Squeal. We've got Steve. Steve Anderson is the executive producer in the green. We've got Paul Eglinton. I can even spell Eglinton now too. Welcome, Paul. And we've got Squeal's favourite drag queen, I think, Tabitha Turlington.
I should have brought a dictionary today.
Why?
Oh, his big words are flying around just everywhere.
Oh, no, don't be silly. We'll get rid of them by the time you finish. It's all right. Now, what we're talking about tonight is Squeal or Screech. You could say squeal or scream, squeal or cringe, but essentially it comes from a sort of j'accuse from Dave Trueman in an email mailing list called Queer Melbourne or Q Melbourne. Now, Dave, explain to us what Q Melbourne or Q Melbourne News is all about. How does it happen? What's out there in cyberspace?
Okay, how Q Melbourne works is that various people that have access to the internet become subscribers to a one group or an e-group mailing list, which means that all the...
so they get messages each day?
They do indeed. They can submit messages which are then recirculated amongst the group, and it's a message exchange service. Also,
so it's a bit like notes at the back of the classroom in school?
Oh, we take it a bit more seriously than that.
Well, how is it more serious?
It's seen as it was originally, its inception was that there was some dissatisfaction with what was then MSO and brother sister, and the founder of it believed that there needed to be an alternative news service in Melbourne.
So the founder was a ratbag?
I've never met the man, so I couldn't tell.
Oh, really? Okay.
I took it over some 6 or 8 months after.
So they were pissed off with MSO and brother sister for being what? Too establishment?
Well, perhaps a little too establishment. I get the impression that perhaps that the items of news that were being missed, that they felt that MSO and brother sister should be...
What are some examples of items of news that they missed?
Well, I don't actually know, Rob, because I wasn't there at the time. I took it over some time later.
All right. Well, since you've taken it over, what do? You sit in cyberspace and say yes or no. You can circulate that message or not.
Yes, we.
So you censor You censor what people want to put.
No, we call it moderation. We have some simple rules.
Rules. Okay, we've got rules. What sort of rules have we
We
got?
have rules. You can't, the same as your medium here, you can't slander people, you can't libel people, and we ask that the statements aren't inflammatory.
Okay, now that's a really good start. Now, inflammatory. How do you characterise your original email that you penned, or rather gave good keyboard with, in relation to Squeal? You sat down Monday night innocently watching Channel 31, as we all are, watching Squeal. Now, what was your reaction? What did you say in your email?
Well, firstly and foremostly, I'm not a regular watcher of Ben TV.
Oh, come on, Dave, you will be, though.
I've learnt that perhaps I ought to.
Now, what was your reaction?
Well, I was channel surfing, and that was my point. I was sitting out in my suburban home, channel surfing, flicking through the channels, and I happened to come across the Squeal program on Channel 31. And as I said in my email, I stopped for a moment because the thing that drew my attention was that Melinda Edwards was on it, the police gay and lesbian liaison
Now,
officer.
we should explain your connection with the police. You don't have one anymore.
No, I'm retired.
You're a retired copper.
I am.
And in fact, you're really living history in relation to gay, lesbian, bisexual and transgender past in Melbourne, aren't you?
I have been referred to as a living legend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the reason for this is... What happened?
Well, I was probably the most senior openly gay member of the Victoria Police for quite a number of years. I also founded the Gay and Lesbian Police Employees Network.
Right. And
that brought us into great conflict with the police department and the then police minister, Bill McGrath. So.
And Bill is fair. It's fair to say is a nice country bloke, but you wouldn't say that he knows much about poofters and dykes.
Well, I always loved
let alone drag queens, Tabitha.
I always loved the way the former Premier, Mr Kennett, referred to him as a man's man. I believe that that could be open to any interpretation that one wanted.
Well, the former Premier characterised grammar boys as being an absolutely acceptable second choice if you can't get a girl. But that's in Hansard.
Well, Ralph, it happens at every academy.
Drew, that happens in every academy.
Everyone.
We're not going to get it at Trinity this week.
Oh,
No. That's old news by now. Now, Dave, Melinda was on Squeal, and she was talking about the police, or she was liaising, or what was she doing?
Well, frankly, that was my problem, Ralph. I couldn't tell what was going on.
Well, sometimes we do have problems with that.
It appeared that everybody was talking, or more to the point, screaming at the same time. I watched it in somewhat a state of paralysis for a short time.
I can see the first lips now.
Gets me. How dramatic.
That I was trying to figure out what was going on. Whatever you were trying to produce that evening, you weren't getting your message across.
And so essentially you were shocked. You were shocked and you were disapproving.
No, I'm not shocked and I'm not disapproving. I merely didn't understand what was going on. It was a noisy, screaming, squealing affair.
Okay, we're going to go to the squealers now. Now, Steve, no, Tabitha, you're dying to say something, aren't you? You're dying to want to squeal.
No, it's only because I was actually on that. I think I was on that show.
It was you that was squealing.
You were anchoring.
I'm a natural born squealer. But was it when we're showing the footage of the carnival? Is that when you surfed in?
It was the week before Carnival.
No, it's the
No,
week
it was
before.
Pride March. It was when we were showing Pride March footage.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Is that the show you were watching when you were paralysed?
It was the week before last.
Yeah, but we were showing the Pride
And you were
March,
talking over
which
the
we were always
footage.
giving our general things and that. And I don't see. Do you understand why Melinda's there?
I eventually got some idea why she was there.
It's just because I do a lot of for minus 18, say, let's just say for that, which are the young gay guys coming out to nightclubs. We did a show with her. Melinda was there and nice enough to come on stage. And it was just funny when I asked the crowd, how many of you are too scared to go and speak to a police officer, or if you're getting troubles at home or with friends, and having Melinda there, when they're able to go up and speak to her, then they will now feel comfortable, if they are in trouble, to ring her up. And she was giving them her number, where they could contact her, so now they don't have to feel afraid, they don't have to be scared. So I think by seeing her on TV, whatever age they are, Melinda's a face there, so they've got a face to a name if they need to ring somebody up and need help. So I think it's good if she's there with nonsense or with something serious. It's just nice having her there, so that people out there know they've got someone to speak to, or those who are involved in domestic cases.
Now, technically, though, the criticism was not whether it was a good thing that Melinda was there or not, but was it understandable? Where Steve,
Can
as
I
EP,
reply to this?
you're presiding
Now,
over
I
this.
actually booked Melinda. It's one of my duties as the executive producer of Squeal. And we've had Melinda on several times over the last year and a half, and we've got to know her. She's the gay and lesbian liaison officer. That means she liaises with us. Now, she can sit there and say, yes, I'm a police officer, and that's all very good, right? But it's not going to bring her any closer to the community. So I thought it was much better, and she tended to agree and felt comfortable with it at the time, that she came on, not in the capacity as officer, even though she was wearing her uniform, and she wasn't there to do that, but she was there to be one of us and participate in community television and be one of the Squealers, which is a light-hearted show. I think that she was liaising very well with us. She was having a good time. She got asked some sticky questions that she
Dodged quite well.
And she gained a lot of respect from us, as well as the viewers, I'm sure, of maybe a younger nature. You are of a different age group to most of our viewers, I think.
Oh, I don't know
No,
about that,
I just think
Steve.
it might be
We
old
have
school
quite a
to
few
young
old
school.
people. Old people, young
But hang
people,
on.
middle-aged people.
Yes, but what I'm...
Middle-aged like you and me, or no, actually you're
No.
almost
I mean, I'm
middle-aged.
just thinking of the young queens that go out on the scene and you know, do the partying and stuff.
Yeah.
But also you have a background from the police force, so you're looking at it through police officers' eyes, whereas the rest of us are looking at it through
Yes,
community eyes.
Dave, you're retired now. But as a retired police officer, what were...
Don't stereotype me into
I
being
didn't
what
mean
I
to.
may or may not be. I am, merely because I'm a retired police officer doesn't mean that I'm necessarily conservative or I can't enjoy myself or have a good time. The program, people, was bad television.
In your opinion?
It was bad television.
In your
It
opinion?
failed to communicate the message that you wanted to communicate, whatever it was.
Sometimes there's not a message there. It's just about having fun. No, not everything
Not
has to be a
everything
message.
is so serious. I mean...
It's
You folks
light-hearted
certainly-
entertainment. Sometimes my patter is funny. Sorry, continue.
I was going to say, you people certainly appeared to be having fun. I don't know how many of your viewers were, because I certainly couldn't understand it. Now, again, I qualify that with, this is one of the first times I've come in and watched the program. My critique on the internet asked other questions apart from being critical. I called it the cringe program. It was when setting off my cringe factor at home like no one's business.
Well, it is actually true that that not everybody in the community does squeal or screech or scream at the same time, but there are a lot of queens that do that, Dave. You go to any gay bar and you'll see quite a lot of screeching and screaming and squealing. And it is typical of the gay and lesbian community, isn't it?
I don't think it's typical of the whole gay and lesbian community.
No.
But quite frankly,
What is
it's
typical of the whole gay and
Thank
lesbian
you.
community?
We're diverse.
Pick one thing that we all have. Sexuality.
sexuality.
Oh, wow.
I-
And how many different variants are there on that?
We're all
Okay,
sexual,
now
really.
we're cringing here on blah blah blah. We're talking about Squeal. We're talking about cyberspace, and we'll be back in a second or two. Screeching, and we're talking about, I guess, the representation of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people on not just community television, but in the media more generally. James Curry, you're involved in IMITV now, but you've watched Bent TV and our ilk for some time. What was your reaction to Squeal when you first saw it? Were they talking over each other? Were they being screaming drag queens?
Well, I think that's the style.
Tizzy queens.
That's the style of programming, Ralph. I mean, you can't really have a show called Squeal and have it sort of all formal and you know, quiet. That's the general idea of the show. But I find making TV, one of the problems is appealing to many demographics, sort of thing. It's hard to do. So I don't know. You can't have everything in one show. You can only have a certain sort of theme.
Do you get it? You're not a screaming queen. Well, today you're not a screaming queen.
Not tonight. Maybe later. Are you comfortable with lots of screaming queens around you? Yeah, I think it's great. Just the gay scene, like you said, is full of that sort of thing. Not to stereotype, obviously, but it does represent a large proportion of the gay community.
Just the clubland, don't you think? Because that's the most visual part of the gay community.
Yeah. But there are other elements to the clubland. I mean, not everybody out on the scene is.
Well.
But I do think it is a necessary part of the gay sort of community.
What, drag queens and drag kings are a necessary part? Why are they necessary?
They keep the atmosphere, I think. I mean, I'm not really too sure how to phrase this, but they provide a certain sort of identity, I suppose, maybe for the gay community, and I think that it is a very positive one. And it's kind of just tongue-in-cheek and a bit of fun.
But what's positive necessarily about that? I mean, Tabitha's entertaining because she actually hides her intelligence with some of what she says and how she says it. You know, and she is actually not just a dumb drag queen. She is actually Toby, who's an intelligent human being who likes to get dressed up in dresses and long boots. Very nice boots today, actually, Tabitha.
Nice boots.
Now, the use of camp humour, I guess, is important in terms of gay community traditionally, not so much in terms of lesbians, and let's not go into bisexuality for the moment. I mean, Tabitha, you know, you're in a community of drag queens that includes some real dumb bunnies that don't have anything to say, that are just froth. Would you would defend their right to get dressed up?
Everyone has a right to do it, of course. Yeah.
But they're not typical or even interesting just because they put a dress on.
Well, of course, in everything, some people are quite good at what they do, some are crap, but it's what they're getting out of it from each level. Do you know what I mean? So they might just enjoy that and running around being stupid. Like a queen might want to be a muscle mare, or you might want to be a big limp-wristed faggy running around the club going, genau. But that's just what it is. Do you know what I mean? So.
Well, Dave,
what about Miss Shitty one? Shocking.
Miss Shitty, yes.
Psychiatrically ill.
Miss Shitty. This is another alter ego that we have in the room.
My character.
What would Miss Shitty be saying if she was sitting with Dave, purse-lipped, watching Squeal?
And the cyberspace is basically. I mean, how do we know that these people are real anyway?
Thank you.
I mean, who are these fucking people that send emails? Are they coming from the Outlook cafe, from any fucking cyber cafe? It could have been done by the same person. You just don't know.
Now
you don't know.
Yeah, we're talking about these people.
I'm the devil's
Dave,
advocate, by the way.
You did your original email message, but there's been the odd message since.
There's been more than the odd message.
Well, how many messages has there been about this issue of whether Squeal are froth or not?
Well, there's been well over 100 messages on Queer News Melbourne.
So how does that compare to other issues?
Well, it's probably the second most spoken about thread of messages that we've had on Q Melbourne since its inception. The previous ones, I think, was related to Mardi Gras or something.
What, the quality of the drugs at Mardi Gras, or
just
costumes,
the Mardi Gras and the Sydney-centric necessity of Mardi Gras. But this was the second most interesting thread we've had. It's stimulated quite a good deal of discussion.
What sort of discussion?
Well, basically along the lines, a lot of people had fairly strong opinions. It was apparent. I have to tell you that most of them were supportive of my criticism.
Why did they come in?
I'm here.
You should have brought some more in.
Well, we
some
want
people
to get
faces
Dave
to
in
the
here.
letters.
That's true. We did invite one of the other key contributors, but didn't get a response. So you're right, Drew. He may.
Who is this
just
key
be.
contributor?
He must.
Sorry,
He
but it's just,
he might not be real.
I've played
It
around
might be
in
somebody
cyberspace.
with a different name. You've played
There are
around
no
in
boundaries.
cyberspace. There are no boundaries.
None whatsoever.
Well, no. Dave has a boundary in Q News because Dave is a moderator, and he will stop some messages. You said because of libel or slander. What about if you're not sure whether somebody's real or not? Somebody's got a real name.
I don't think it's ever confronted. Most of them appear to have real names. They subscribe.
Sort of, so if they call themselves Tabitha Turlington, and
Toby 16.
That would
Toby 16, yes, that'd be
come
more
on.
fun. Yeah, and they said, well, yes, I'm going to give up drag, and I agree with you, Dave Trueman, that I've been wasting my time. I've been far too frivolous. I've used the wrong lipstick, and you're right. Well, what would you do then? Would you moderate that in or moderate that out?
And unless the particular messages break the rules, which are 3 simple rules, then everything goes in.
3 simple rules are libel,
Slander
slander,
and inflammatory.
and inflammatory. Okay. So you don't like getting people excited.
Excuse
Uh,
me.
inflammatory-
Excuse me, Steve.
No,
Inflammatory, such as, oh, but people, this program should be renamed Cringe, and I'm saying that correctly, I'm sure.
Now you're quoting from Dave's
Quoting from
original
your
message.
letter.
Yeah.
Is this what Mr. and Mrs. Suburban straight see of us? Who gives a flying fuck, really? This passes and imperses as in entertainment. My hand was frozen to the remote control in horror, or I would have switched it off. Very melodramatic and inflammatory to me. These comments, like this is name calling and stuff.
Now that does sound a bit inflammatory, Dave. Were you being inflammatory or merely provocative?
I was being provocative.
Can't you?
I think people
James.
are entitled to have, if they disagree with the program, they're entitled.
After the
Yeah, I do
paralysis,
agree
it
with
would have got really
You
excited.
can't go censoring things to the point where you can't constructively criticise something, or even criticise something.
It's an interesting point, though, constructive criticism, because that was probably one of my little beefs with it, is that these nameless, well, seemingly nameless, I mean, I have 7 different internet identities that I go under. So
Paul 1, Paul 2.
and it's as easy as it, limits your imagination is the only limit as to who you are and where you come from and what you do. So these Joe Schmoes that have written these emails in, which once again none of them apart from yourself has turned up either at the production meeting last Wednesday that they were asked to come to, or to here today. So
Actually, it's
obviously
interesting.
no balls
It's
to
interesting on the-
stand up behind their faceless comments that they made on an internet page.
It's interesting on the net that there are very few drag queens on the net. There are lots of
No.
tall, masculine,
Straight acting.
straight acting.
Which
Yes.
gets me. Straight acting. Acting straight. Now, one of the other things that I just wanted to... I sat with a dictionary all morning this morning, which was quite an interesting
See,
thing for
Tabitha,
me
you
to
didn't
do.
need to bring your dictionary.
because
Paul
it's
already.
gonna
And
glossary
I
for
looked
me.
up,
Already
I
looked up
looked
the
up
words.
squeal in the dictionary, and it's to utter with or produce a loud, shrill cry or sound. So anyone that would actually see the
So
name
what
of the
about
program
what's the definition of scream?
would know what that they would have in front of them. We actually named the program so that people aren't misled by that. And I also saw that it's slang for an informer, which I thought was quite cool as well, because I see us as a bit of an pack of informers, that we there's the whiskers on the scene and we bring it to people every week. The one word that stuck out in your email to me was the word reluctant, which I found really a strange word to use when I saw absolutely no reluctance.
What was
of your
the context?
criticism as well. He said, reluctant as I am to criticise. And quite frankly, I don't think that there was any reluctance to criticise. And really, I have a problem with hypocrisy and people having opinions about things that they have either one, never watched, never tried, never seen, never tasted.
You can't level that as an accusation of Dave, because he did sit down and watch
once,
and he did. Well, he's done it twice now.
I've watched two.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
See, you've got a new regular viewer.
We haven't heard anything about the second program, and it'll be interesting to see if he does have any comments to say about that. Constructive criticism to me is that if someone out there has a beef about what they've seen on here, I mean, we are an open book. Every week we publicise email address, phone numbers, everything else, and
come and do it. Make our lives easier.
You know,
Paul, I think part of constructively criticising something is providing good, strong arguments and evidence about what was wrong with it. Now, criticising the program Squeal for squealing is kind of sort of ironic, I suppose, really. But I think watching I've watched the show a few times myself, and I think that if people can't look beyond the theme of the show, being Squeal, and the face, to what's really going on underneath, to see that there are serious issues being dealt with, like you said, like the police officer and stuff like that, well then, you know.
Well then, so I must be a little bit slow on the uptake, because quite frankly...
Some of us are slow,
yeah,
Dave. Some of us are slow.
The program I watched was a cacophony of noise.
Well, sometimes our audio is better than others, of course.
40 minutes, I couldn't figure out what you were all going on about.
Get subtitles done.
What did I just read out what the definition, the dictionary definition of squeal is. So
now, Paul, that's really
important.
Dave, that's really important. But we are at the end of a segment of blah blah blah. I'm actually wondering what blah 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 telescope says as a name for a show. But I'm not going to wonder now, because we've got a break here on Ben TV on blah 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 on Channel 31 Melbourne. Welcome back to Blah 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 on Ben TV. We're squealing, or maybe we're screeching here on Blah 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 tonight. We're talking about the representation of gay, lesbian, bisexual and transgender people, not only on Ben TV, Channel 31 Melbourne, but in the media generally. And our touchstone was an email that Dave Trueman from Q News sent out through cyberspace, where Paul Eglinton has 7 identities. And I'd love to know which of the 7, Paul. We'll get onto that later. But Dave, let's go back to your suggestion. Say there's 4 million people in Melbourne. How many gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people have we got?
That would give you, if you go on the 10%, it would give you about 400,000. Okay,
10% more bisexuals. Well, if you were Kinsey, I think you'd probably say more like 33%. But let's go with 10%.
Okay,
that's 400,000 queer or bent people in Melbourne. That's an awful lot of us, isn't it?
Well, in the state of Victoria.
In the state of Victoria, that's true. Not all of us are at venues all the time.
Well, that's my point. As I've said, if you opened every one of the venues up tonight, every place that are considered venues and congregating places for GNL people and the wider community, stripped them all naked, covered them in butter and shoehorned them all through the door and laid them end to end, you will still only get about 10 or 15,000 of those people.
But it's
there.
Monday night.
Sure.
No one goes out Monday night.
I'm actually not sure why you'd strip them naked, strip us naked, and put butter on us. This is a fantasy, isn't it, Dave? Let's set that aside.
That's stereotypical.
Let's leave my bedroom for a moment. But what I'm saying is you only get 10 or 15,000. They're the same people that go there usually each week. You get a few blow-ins coming in and out, but they're basically regulars to their favourite venues. I've always asked the question, and I continue to ask, what are the other 390,000 doing?
Watching Bent TV and working out what we do in venues.
No, sitting at home channel surfing like I was, and then they were confronted by the representation that they saw on Squeal
Now,
2 weeks ago.
Okay, this is where I'm going to pick you up on representation. Now, a representation is someone that symbolises or depicts or portrays certain characteristics that are specified qualities for that people. Now, I have never, excuse me, I'm talking, you've had your say, it's my turn. I have never, ever put my hand up and said that I represent anyone in this community apart from myself. So, I think that shoots that right through the head to start off with. Not one of the people apart from guests that we've had in that have been representing specific community groups within our gay, lesbian, transgendered, bisexual community have been representatives. We are gay people, lesbian people that come in here, give of our own time with, you said limited budget in your email, no budget whatsoever, and produce what we enjoy producing and also what we think may be informative to the average. And that's another word that was bandied around in there as well. I have never in my life wanted to be average. And how
Or
do
suburban,
you
Paul, or
find someone average in a community that is as diverse as our gay, lesbian, 400,000 people in Victoria community is? How do you define the average gay person in that?
It's a fair point.
Yeah, I'll respond to it. Firstly and foremost, you put the connotation of negative on representation. I said it was a representation. I've said it was bad television. Okay? I said it's bad television.
No, you said that you're worried about how the straight
Say
people
that
in
we
the suburbs
portray
are being seeing us as
Yes.
representatives of the gay community.
We never said that we're representing the gay community. And quite frankly, I don't want to represent the gay community. I have a problem myself. The thing is that I share a lot of your views, probably, and if you and I sat down together, we would probably agree on a whole lot of other issues. But the thing is, I choose to do it in a helpful way, not a negative way, as I see that what you've done.
James?
I think the problem with making television and trying to, like I was saying before, trying to create it for an audience is, if you're creating it for an audience, then sometimes you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You should be doing it probably for yourself or for maybe a particular part of the community, but not for an audience. You know what I mean? It's the wrong reason to be doing it.
Now, actually, we should ask ourselves why we would have a show like Squeal, or blah, blah, blah for that matter, or why you would have Q News. Steve, why do you do Squeal? How much time do you spend doing Squeal a week?
Where do we start? Okay, I've got a list here because I really need help. I've got to write the running sheets. That's several pages. That allocates time to everybody so everyone gets a fair go. I've got to organise the guests, which means ringing them on my own mobile phone at my own cost, giving them a reminder call to get them here to make sure they're here.
Actually, in the case of Tabitha,
In Tabitha,
four phone calls and several sedatives.
Spend a few hours picking the music.
And the limo.
Excuse me. Picking the music for the show. This is just my effort, and there's like a dozen people at any one time working on any particular show. In this room at the moment, there's 15 people, 20. If there's any edited stuff, that needs to be done, and that is torture on a stick, let me tell you. We have to pre-tape performances, we have to edit music, book the guest follow-up calls, running sheets, photocopying them at my own cost again. I buy the newspaper every week, cut out the newspapers, we sit down, we conference, we get there, we work out. On a normal TV show, like on normal television, they've got, okay, let's pick a show, and I'm the host of a show. I've got all week to worry about it. I'm going to be on TV for an hour. I get paid more than the average person, and I've got all week to work out what I'm going to say in that hour.
And you've got a team of people.
I mean, I myself, I work 50 hours a week as a chef, then come here, spend another 20 hours at Bent TV, as the rest of us do, have our lives, and put in many, many hours. We turn up, we go, okay, what have we got to do? Boom, boom. We don't have the luxury of time. Sometimes we're misinformed, sometimes we absolutely don't know what we're doing, sometimes we're making up fluff just to fill in time.
And sometimes it's crap.
Yeah, sometimes it is. But hey, we're doing it. Where are you? You should be here, sitting on the lounge next to me, giving me a hand, giving Paul a hand.
Can I just say
And
that
thank you for coming, by the way.
Because you're a volunteer, does that mean you can't be criticised?
No, we welcome your criticism, actually.
And I'm not.
I really am glad that you started this email
I'm
debate.
not doubting that you all work very hard, but being volunteers doesn't exempt you from criticism.
I know, but we're not gods. We're people. We're just ordinary people on the street.
Once again, I'd come back to the point of constructive criticism.
Well, I believe, Paul, that the criticism was constructive.
How can it be?
You don't wish to take
As I
it
said,
that way.
none of you have chosen to take a direct line and constructively and, bravely come and email us, write a letter into us and discuss it.
Well,
no, you've chosen to start this conversation on a very little, small minority group within a community that...
Actually, Paul,
you know.
it's not. Dave actually does Q News Melbourne, and that takes a bit of time too, in terms of moderating messages and
And cut my fair level of criticism.
yeah, that's true.
I'm sure.
There are actually probably 390,000 in Melbourne's and Victoria's gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community who aren't doing anything. That's some of you out there.
But they don't have to do things.
They don't have to do things, Tabitha. Why not? Why wouldn't it be
Why
good
do
to
they
take
have to?
part in
Why
the
can't
community?
they just live their life? Some of us like doing it, enjoy doing it. Some people are quite happy just to live their lives day to day and do whatever they're doing. If they've got children, if they've got parents they're caring for, or whatever, or if they're just busy at work. They don't have to. Nobody has to do whatever they don't want to do. You only have to do what you want to do. That's why our life is. We're lucky to live in this country.
We haven't got the gardening show on Bent TV yet. I mean, we've got Bitch and Kitchen.
Well, I might grow a beard and do
Well, we
it.
do that as
we
well.
haven't got a leather show on. We haven't got lesbian bike riding show on. We haven't got needlepoint geriatric dildo making. I mean,
Gummy shark.
how do you represent? How do you
I was
represent
going
our
to do
gay
that in Squeal
community?
next week, dildo, mate.
Oh, sorry.
Can I read you our
Yeah.
mission statement?
Okay,
here
why
at
are we
Bent TV?
here? Why are we here, Steve?
The Bent TV mission statement: to put queer faces on television, to create television for and by the queer community by encouraging and involving the GLBT and allied communities in the creation, production and broadcast of TV for both the particular interests of queers and the wider interest of the general viewing public. But that does not mean that we are for the straight people. We love you watching straight people. We love you seeing into our little world. But this is particularly for the gay people. And the lesbian people and the bisexual people. If you happen to learn something about us, or it enables you to come out, or you learn of a group that you didn't know was in existence, that's a bonus, and we are happy that we can help. But this is not specifically for the straight community. And in your email, you're worried of what Mr. and Mrs. Straight, average suburban person is saying of us.
Well, I mean, it's not just bench. You actually talk about something
they
like
do.
The Age.
They do,
The Age,
exactly. They
the
see it on
Age.
mainstream media.
The Age
I mean,
is a
they're the ones that we
mainstream-
should be having a go at.
Well,
It's mainstream media. And also, the other thing is that, from my point of view, and being a member of Bent TV is about helping other people and, encouraging other people to not only come on and be part of our group, but encouraging them to be parts of other groups as well, which I don't see any encouragement coming from what you
Well, and part of
arranged here
constructively
on
criticising
Q
something is not bringing up the problems, but actually providing solutions.
Some
Is there any
solutions.
solutions
Yeah.
to the problems in the
Definitely.
You may have realised that it's not because you've come along and this is going to be the 45 minutes of really exciting television for you next Monday night when you are frozen to your remote control, quote unquote.
I haven't made that commitment
But
yet,
but it's
I'm
not
sure you'll
easy.
watch yourself.
It's not easy to overcome your nerves and talk confidently to the camera to those 100,000 people out there that are watching us. Hi, it's not easy. It does take some work, and you've got to be able to not watch yourself on TV for a while and accept the fact that you're not as pretty as you thought you might be, and
No.
you're not as smart as you might be. And
Steve, none of us are as pretty as we might be, and none of us have
Used
got
to
as
be.
much
Right.
time as we want to be.
Except Tabitha.
I am.
Except Tabitha, of course.
I am.
I've never seen you out of drag, though, Tabitha.
It's even better.
Is it even better? Okay, right. Well, all right. We are running out of time. I'd like to remind you of the Bent TV contact details, which hopefully will magically come up on our screen because of our up-to-date equipment. And yes, we are quite happy to accept donations for the Bent TV auction on March the 18th at the Gay and Lesbian Street Fair. The contact details are PO Box 1414, Collingwood 3866, and of course we haven't got time for those yet. If you want to phone us, it's 949474 445. The web address is http://switch.to, that's TO/BentTV, one word, no underscore, no space. Well, we're also in our own e-group as well, and that's groups.yahoo.com/BentTV, one word, no underscore, no space.
Ralph, Steve, if you really want to give them something to like really make it a grabber for the show, Tabitha, crutch shot.
This program is proudly brought to you by the Peel Dance Bar, corner of Peel and Wellington Streets, Collingwood.